September 14th. I am Chris Accords.
I'm Hifrok.
And Pages.
And I just realized I forgot to set the stream title. But it'll still be... It's actually still going to say the Cube discussion. It's spoiler time this week.
More spoilers.
Yep. It's that time of year where there's going to be probably 3 or 4 of them every week, I'd imagine, if they want to keep it at a nice regular cadence leading up to Continentals, and then whatever comes after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them since our last stream. Most of those having been dropped at the Commentaries Magic stream 2 weeks ago, and a couple of them coming from Bugle, and a couple of them just randomly showing up in Discord.
Or Twitter, I think.
I
think there was one on Facebook that wasn't on Discord.
That's right. The problem was on Facebook.
Yeah.
Got to keep your eyes open.
You never know.
Or just check the album and pray don't forget about adding cards.
Where do you find the album?
It's pinned on Reddit. So if you go to the subreddit, you'll see the very first link will be the spoiler album.
Mm-hmm. Now that you mentioned that, it should be pretty important. I'm just going to make sure that I'm watching our chat, because you do never know. Oh, whoops. Logged into the wrong. Sorry, I'm just logging into the account here.
Should we proceed to the first spoiler in the meantime?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Formation Flying. Main phase, move one of your characters. At the end of the turn, you may move one of your characters. It's kind of like Extreme Sledding, but cheaper and with a delay.
Mm-hmm. Sledding, if I remember correctly, was like 2 cost to move 2 of your characters?
Yep.
This just lets everybody who always wanted to play Scootaloo kind of play half a Scootaloo.
It's like it's the token blue movement event of the set, because every set needs like 1.
Yep.
Pretty much, yeah.
And given that you have like the rotation happening, it doesn't hurt for blue to have another movement event.
Right, yeah. Because, well, Sequestria's still in. All the blues like movement triggers are still around. So, good to have more cards to key off of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you move stuff like, you'll lose stuff like, Ever Vigilant, I think, is gone.
Extreme Sledding as well. Not that many people used it, but still an event.
Mm-hmm. And even Scootaloo herself. The main. So, I imagine just like that card, the best time to use this is on a turn that you're going to DFO and then take advantage of the fact that your home limit kind of won't count on one of your characters, right?
Yeah, kind of like, as I said, half a Scootaloo.
Yeah, otherwise it's just like, it's cheap. Gets the job done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
I suppose there's
1 AC to move a character, like that's basically having Swift, and then it moves another character as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's also some value, I guess, in like, if you're trying to deal with a troublemaker, you get that move like kind of right before your troublemaker phase, as it were. There.
there's a lot you can do with this. You know, if you want a certain traveler style effect, right, you could potentially move the same character twice.
Like a Pirate Dash.
Oh my god. That's pretty value.
Yep. It's also, what's interesting about this event is it has 2 power. We haven't seen non-friend cards has such low power in a while.
That is true. I don't think we've ever had an event with 2 power.
I want to say we have, but that's fine.
Well,
It's just very rare, if if ever.
I have the Royal Archive here. Let's see.
We've had some events with 2 power, like True Evil.
Let's see. Yes, True Evil, too much fun, not on the list, and anything I can do to help. Spread around. Well, that's definitely not nothing, so I stand corrected.
But it's not like those cards saw a lot of competitive play. I think this one, stands to see more of a chance.
And speaking of Pirate Dash, you actually mentioned earlier, we have another card coming up, which is another good thing to pair with this and Pirate Dash.
It's like Pirate Dash and
boy.
Woods is good or something. Speaking of other cards, do you want to move on to the next one?
Sure.
It's Rainbow Shine.
The next act in the long-running saga of Rainbow Shine.
Back in action.
Yeah, except this one actually has a similar ability. Like, this is clearly a callback to the first Rainbow Shine.
Uncannily similar, really. Yeah. So yes, 2 cost, 2 power, blue and orange, stubborn. When you move this card to a problem, you may exhaust this card to ready a friend there, rather. Yeah. So what's interesting to me is in Core before, we had basically no ways to ready stuff, right?
Practically none.
Yeah.
There was wasn't there a Cloud Chaser? Except it was
She's
4 blue.
Absolute Discord.
Was she?
So,
Okay.
not in Core, yeah.
Alright, I stand corrected.
Yeah, pretty much the only way to ready it. So there was I think it was Bon Bon, or it might have been Lyra. It's either one of those.
No, it was Bon Bon. I looked it up beforehand to see if any of you would get it.
Yeah, I think it's pay 1 or maybe 2 even to ready a friend or ready something.
It's when this card enters play, if you have a Lyra, pay 1 to ready a friend here.
Oh yeah, so
very restricted.
Yeah, it's much easier to, I don't know, just play a portal on something and ready a card that way. And you have a lot of flicker effects like Discord Waffle or Party Clasher or Portal, which is basically readying if you want to use them that way. And I think Bon Bon is the only one that comes to my mind.
So in any event, now we have it. And I'm pretty sure that the scarcity of ready effects was essentially due to the fact that we had a lot of really powerful exhaust effects, and I'm pretty sure they were trying to shy away from introducing any unfortunate combos. But we're apparently ready to have readies, probably because a good number of those exhaust effects are rotating out.
Well, even for Harmony, this card exhausts itself. In Harmony you have Lead Pony Badge, which does the job better than this one. So it's not as scary, because we already have Lead Pony Badge, and that one is okay, I guess. And unlike Lead Pony Badge, this one...
characters.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Can't ready Vinyl with this.
Good point. Yep. So, memes and combos aside, what do we feel about viability?
I think it's fine. It's well, one blue rec, one orange rec gives it pretty strong playability, I think. Even though Change Traditions is getting the boot, but it's as strong as whatever exhaust effects exist on other friends. We've seen a couple. Well, we've seen a few so far, and those ones are pretty good.
Like the mullet, the blue-orange mullet.
Mm-hmm.
Pay 1 at immediate speed to move a character. You could pay 1 to move this, ready move it back and move something else too.
Yep. And actually, if orange kind of really goes the direction of that new Applejack main and turns into like a heavy exhaust deck, then readying stuff might become goodish in response.
Yeah. Also, a fun deck to think about, even though it's not core, it will not be core anymore, is a Muffin Mare deck. Where you could move this to ready something and to transfer something's power again.
It's true.
And she's stubborn.
That deck has always been pretty good at what it did. Always worth looking into again, in Harmony, as you say.
Yeah. Fortunately, only in Harmony.
All the fun cards are in Harmony.
It's true. Let's just scrap core and play Harmony.
Yes, come to the dark side.
Alright, next up.
Yep. A main character.
Our second main character. Our blue main character. And again, with the complicated flip condition. So, at immediate speed, if you control 3 or more characters with different power, turn this card over. And on the boosted side, you move a character to a problem for the first time each turn, you move another one of your characters with 1 less power to the same problem. So, this is interesting. A main that apparently is wanting us to run kind of a diverse selection of powered characters, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So, she being free power herself, and a lot of good blue cards like Pirate Dash, having 2 power, I'm pretty sure pretty much all of the time you'll be able to move with her something.
Mm-hmm.
So while the boosted ability looks very restrictive, I think you'll still, like, pretty much at any point you will be able to get some value out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, any 2 power friend will do.
Even a 4 power friend if you move. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
move
that
them
works.
first and then dash follows, yeah.
So if you have a 2 power friend or 4 power friend, you're pretty much guaranteed to get a value. Given that they're, well, if you want to move them there, of course.
Yeah.
Because there's a restriction of her moving to the same problem. And trust me, you want to have that restriction.
That sounds reasonable, yeah. So about the start side then, with, like, I know I still have to kind of think myself into the paradigm of new core. In old core, I immediately think, oh, I just play Aloe and a 2 power friend and I'm set. But
well, if you play Aloe into a 2 power friend here, you're also set because you'll control 3 characters with different power.
Right, but Aloe's rotating out. That's the thing.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
But you can still play like a 2 power friend and a 3 power friend, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Or a 4 like, I don't think flipping her is that hard.
It takes a little bit more time than what people might be used to, but it's still pretty, like, within I guess 2 or 3 turns.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's just going to require a little bit of just a little bit of extra thought when you're putting your deck together to think about what your early game plays are going to look like, and make sure that you're going to have, probably a 2 and a 3, or maybe a staff and a 2 and a 1, or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, having a confront to flip main also requires you to put thought into how you build your deck. It's just all because we have so many confront to flip mains. All of the like good ways to do it are already figured out. So you pretty much know what to do when you play a confront to flip deck. Main.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
So yeah. I don't think like I think it has pretty much around the same speed as, well, maybe a little bit slower than confront to flip, but it also doesn't suffer from the problem of troublemakers.
Mhm.
You can flip your main independently.
Yeah, it's like the flip requirement is pretty isolated to yourself, so unless your opponent wants to like belly flop your first dude, it seems like not. It seems like a really, if you fail to flip your main, that's kind of on you.
Yeah.
Worth pointing out, actually, that this is like, these are going to be like, you say that and it makes me think of like limited, and like, oh, suddenly like drafting with this main gets really interesting because it is another puzzle to solve.
True, but like in limited you do get quite a bit of variety as far as friends are concerned.
Yeah, like I don't mean to say it'll necessarily be hard, but I like the idea that it's presenting me with a puzzle of some sort that I have to work through. And for what it's worth, I can say this for all of the mains that we've seen so far, including the one that's going to come up next. That like I really appreciate how the mains in this set are kind of tricky in their own way. Not like tricky hard, but tricky like I have to kind of figure them out a little bit and figure out what the best way to work with them is.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in a sense, they're not just beat sticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I'm sure will appeal to the deck builders out there.
Yep. Next card.
Okay.
Aurora
This one hurts
Borealis.
my brain a little.
At this time of year.
Very good, Hifrock. Gold star. Everyone who got the meme, of course.
Kind of wish I didn't.
So, 3 cost, 3 power, pink white. Text reads a little bit strangely to anyone who hasn't kind of thought about it for a while, but as this card enters play, name a friend. The named friend can't be played, so kind of like a restricted Octavia Harsh Judge. And when this card's put into your discard pile from play, you may search your deck for a friend with that name, reveal it, put it in your hand, kind of like a less restricted cadence of sort. Okay, it's
more like BFF, I would say.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's either a Harsh Judge or it's a tutor. And the either or is the best way to look at it. It is definitely not both. Unless really strange things are happening.
Like, unless you're playing a mirror match, chances are you're not naming a friend that you have in your deck. Unless you want to find that friend specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are going to have a lot of trouble figuring out how to really play this card.
Yeah, like this card it's hard to say when you need it in your deck. Like, Harsh Judge is quite simple. You want to deny your opponent something. But this one has this other ability, and it can only name friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, on the presumption that you're going to play it as like a Harsh Judge, say for example, you could always use it to search for itself on the assumption. Well, that doesn't really work because then you're not getting the harsh judge effect.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's real interesting. It's on the topic I was going for. This is more of the tricky hard puzzle, which is still appreciated, but yeah, gonna require a lot more thought.
I think the key about this card is there are very few tutors.
Yeah, and this will be pretty much the only tutor which will be in core. I think the only other card we'll have is Pearl of Transformation, and that's it.
Well, we have the problem that's coming up is technically.
Oh yeah, there's also the problem.
Yeah, but this is the only unrestricted one. It can go on any friend.
Yeah. If it could name not Frenzy, you'd name Stick on this, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, we already have a card. Well, coming up. That's going to search for Stick.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody recoiled at that thought.
Tempest has kind of conditioned us to be okay with that kind of stuff happening, maybe.
But that problem helps Tempest too. Okay, we'll talk about that problem when it comes.
Yeah. we'll get to it. So yeah, this is a card that, to come back to our actual Aurora Borealis card.
I think people are going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how they want this card to work in their deck. It's going to be either or, one side or the other. And it's like a card that requires a lot of testing out to see how well it actually works.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds fair. Yeah, personally, I instinctively see a little bit of like interesting card, but potentially a little bit too expensive or a little bit too clunky. Not that, I mean, pink-white is still going to be an outstanding color combination, very likely. So that alone gives it some chance at viability.
I think the kind of deck that wants this card is kind of like a potentially maybe like a combo or control style deck that would use both sides pretty well. Because paying 3 for only one half of those doesn't feel great. But if you manage to make your deck care about both sides, and therefore you get a little bit of flexibility, I think it should be fine. But I think most people would attempt to put more stock into the second half than the first half.
So the problem with getting benefit from both of the sides is that how many friends do you know that all of the decks run? And you will run as well in your control or combo deck.
Well, it doesn't have to be at the same time. It'd be like, at this moment, which side do I need more?
Oh, yeah, that way, yeah, true. Like, you can see it as a versatile card, which basically has, like, implied choose one on it.
Yeah. If you ever manage to actually get both sides to matter at the same time, then that's either the most likely situation is you're playing a mirror match.
Mm-hmm.
And you could get some pretty weird board states out of that, I guess.
Yeah.
It calls into question whether or not your opponent wants to get rid of Aurora Borealis. Because they could maybe be holding a bunch of a friend that they want to play, but then you get a copy of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's worth.
If this could find events like and opponent plays it and names belly flop, I wouldn't want to remove it because my opponent will find belly flop as well, even though I have some of my own. It's hard to like estimate this with friends instead of events because there aren't that many friends that a lot of decks run, especially after Old Money won. If Old Money was still around, then you probably name Old Money on this card.
The same way that you would name her with Harsh Judge, yeah.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Well, to be fair, she's like wait. So like because things are reverting, Old Money's gonna be back in like New Core, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if many decks will
Who
actually
knows?
run it. Well, it was said in the documents update thing that Old Money will probably be back after the core rotates, but I'm not sure if people will actually play it because most of its value was coming from portals. But we'll see. Who knows?
And regardless of that, it'd still have that Chrysalis.
Yeah, there's Evil Twin.
Good point. Yeah. I suppose it's just worth quickly going over. If this card, this is kind of like a rules question. If this card is used in its second mode and like gets frightened, that turns off the search like
Yes.
trigger. Or yeah, okay.
It's pretty much the same as you would frighten Harsh Judge. Like after you unfrighten Harsh Judge, you don't get like players can still play the card.
Right.
The association with the card is lost.
Yeah. The named friend, it doesn't remember the named friend.
Right. Okay. Next card.
Yep.
Our second card that was revealed by Bugle this past week. No, it would have to have been earlier than that.
Cute name.
It's a tutor.
Yes, more tutors, more puzzles to solve. Given that it has to be 3 different critter friends, up to 3, I should say. The card doesn't say up to 3, but if you only find 2, that's fine.
Should
Yeah.
probably say up to 3.
I'm thinking Brian and Bunyip. I think I'm gonna go with those.
Yeah, as Bugle pointed out when he revealed the card, your choices are pretty limited in New Core. Those 2 are the obvious standouts.
Mm-hmm. Critter Choir could be nice, but like this is basically paying 6 for Critter Choir, which is a little bit too much.
A little bit. Critter Choir is real good.
It is good, yeah, but it's so expensive too.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for those dual traded friends who you may not realize counts as a critter.
Like Luna, which we got like with the very first spoiler. She's a critter.
Yeah, that threw me for a loop.
Huh. That's a good point, actually. I'm not forgetting about that card.
Yep, and we might see more critters in the future.
Well, I sure hope so.
Yeah, it's just like pay 2. Kind of draw 3.
Yeah, it's pay to
It's
draw
stuff
3
that you
specific
want.
cards.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good if you have like 3 different critters.
Yeah.
To find.
Would you play this card if you could only get 2?
So paying 2 to draw 2 is kind of meh, but this finds specific cards you need. So probably yes.
Yeah, like if those 2 were Bunyip and Brian, I'd say probably worth it.
Yeah.
And there's just icing on the cake.
I guess so.
Yeah, so yeah, this really depends on how much critters you run. But maybe everyone will start running more Bunyips and more. Well, everyone does run Brians already, but not everyone runs Bunyips. Maybe this card will make everyone run Bunyips. Who
Could
knows?
be. I mean, like
I think the
all
card
the.
that yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think a deck that has this card would probably have Bunyups in it anyways.
Yeah. All the yellow decks, like that we know of, would have no problem meeting this kind of wreck. Like Thorax obviously has no problem with it. Fluttershy usually has a staff out, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like even without the stuff, any yellow friend will do.
Mm-hmm. We'll see whatever our new yellow main looks like.
It
But
might
yeah.
even be Fluttershy.
Seems like a good
I
guess.
believe you.
And I guess another thing we're saying is that we're all talking about this set right now, but this is a card that's almost certainly going to keep on getting better and better as more sets come out and more critters get added to the list.
Mm-hmm. As like a lot of such cards, like Gyro.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, next card.
Sure. So now we're into the block. Or wait a second. Oh, okay, so your list couldn't have been in order because I know these cards were also in the commentaries Magic Stream along with Rainbow Shine on Formation.
It might not be in order now.
Anyway,
So the point of the
It's all
album
good.
is just to have everything.
okay, so back at BronyCon during the Q&A, we were told that there were going to be quote-unquote points matter cards in the set, cards that would trigger or key off of how many points a player had, similar to the way that the AT accumulation system works. This is our first look at it. Presumably appears to be a main 6 cycle of cards, which has 8 points as the key. So for rarity here, standard vanilla 2 for 2 with while a player has 8 or more points, your opponent's home limit is reduced by 1.
Mm-hmm.
That
so-
ability stacks.
Yes, that's the first thing that I thought of is, that stacks. This card can be copied with Herd. You can just play more of them.
Is that the first thing you've thought about?
Well,
That's terrible.
I'd like to know if like I'm playing against an aggro opponent and they get to 8 points and suddenly their home limit 0. How does that work for them? Probably not very well.
Yeah, it's
Poorly.
not. Oh, that's great.
Well, a good thing they have cards like Formation Flying to help them get out of that kind of jam.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, another cool thing about this is that it works whenever any player reaches 8 points. Doesn't matter if it's you or the opponent, as long as some player has 8 points. Kind of like
Just
the
like
AT.
AT.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing about this card, other than the whole home reduction part, is that it's no requirement 2 for 2. So it's both got early game value and late game value.
Yeah, and it's especially good because it works passively. It's a continuous modifier. So if you play it like early game for entry and it sticks until someone gets 8 points, you still get the benefit of the ability.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike the Sequestria cycle where you either play it with the benefit or without.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is a cycle of cards where it's every color's got a version of this. No requirement, 2 power, 2 costs. Just the ability is different, and not everyone has a continuous ability.
Yeah.
Right. And it's worth pointing out that a card like Rarity may indeed stick around, because you play it early and your opponent will look at it and say, oh, well, at least for the moment, that's just a 2 for 2.
Yeah, like
Perhaps not
removing
forever.
this sounds bad. Unless you want to look out of the color. So yeah, cool thing. I really like useful entry cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and cards that their value changes depending on what kind of how late you are or how early you are in the game. they make everything really more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a dead draw later in the game. You know how it's like, oh man, this entry, I wish I had this like 5 turns ago.
Yeah.
Now sometimes it'd be like, oh hey, yeah, sweet. This card showed up on like turn, turn 8, turn 9, something like that, when getting kind of down to the crunch. It's like, oh yeah, I could use this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the record, that's what I'm thinking. Some kind of light control, home limit reduction, fun times.
Even if you're playing a white as secondary color deck, that 1/-1 home limit might snipe something important.
Yeah. All right, next.
Okay. It's another entry.
The second part of the cycle. Our Twilight, purple 2 for 2. This time it is when you play an event with cost 2 or less, if a player has 8 or more points, banish this card to copy that event's effects.
More copy stuff.
Indeed, more copy stuff. Easier to do than Starlight?
Yeah, much easier.
Yeah. But you only get to do it once.
I'd like to copy my portal. Oh wait. Still can do it in Harmony though.
Yeah. Yeah. As we had already kind of dealt with, well, we didn't do it, but a long time ago the discussion was had with Starlight over what exactly are good things to copy. There are a lot of good things out there.
How would you like to move 4 friends?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, how would you like to have 6 critters? Different. Well, actually, you can select the same 3 critters twice.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so unlike Starlight, this card banishes itself, so it can be only used once. But it is an entry card. It's just like Rarity. You can play it early game, and if it sticks around, you basically get a free event out of it.
And then when you get to late game, you probably this Twilight lives for like half a turn, drop her down, and then play some event with some crazy effect. Well, not that too crazy. It's 2 cost or less, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll probably want to play her more just for the effect at the end of the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly, again, my initial instinct was to play this in some kind of mid-rangey or aggro deck where we use her just as a friend early, and then later you have some kind of finisher event that we're pushing us over the line with.
As long as it costs 2 or less, right? It's
not going to be
even aggro decks will want even aggro decks can find value in this card because there's a lot of, unless you're playing something like, even pure aggro decks will have formation flying. Tempo decks can have other things as well. Right? Every deck will have something to play with this card, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much any deck runs some sort of events, and pretty much all of them are useful to copy.
Yeah, I mean, even
Belly flop might not be the greatest.
It's good if you have a bodyguard out. You can just retire the token again.
Wait, you may banish this card to copy this event's effects.
Yeah, but... So, you may retire the unicorn, like you get rid of 2 friends, get 2 unicorns, and then you can retire one of those unicorns. Yeah, so you play belly flop, you retire one of your friends, not this one, but some other friend, dismiss their friend, you get 2 unicorns from bodyguards, and then you process this trigger and copy the event. And retire one of the unicorns.
Yeah. So just a quick look at like what we have starting up with defenders. most of the songs are covered, which is
Yep.
pretty good.
I don't think even most. I think all of them are covered.
Yeah, I think that's actually right.
And there are some pretty good songs out there. Like I think a lot of yellow decks run Friends Always There. Like you can stick this entry purple card into any deck, even if it doesn't run purple, if you really want that extra event.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of aggro, Defend the Hive. Kind of. That's been an okay card.
Yeah,
Double
Defend the Hive is
Agile.
perfectly fine. It's just yeah. By the time it's pretty likely that Twilight would end up being at home at some point if you're playing Defend the Hive. So you don't really lose much. You just have to be really careful though that you don't accidentally take yourself out of purple
That's a good
by
point.
banishing her at some point.
Yeah. Like my kind of consternation with Defend the Hive is like I associate that card with Thorax generally, and he doesn't get too much value out of copying that event because you're just moving your Thorax for the most part.
Yeah, there's plenty of other yellow decks that would still play Defend the Hive that's not Thorax decks.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, you kind of lose some of the text on the card, but you still get the immediate speed move, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And Twilight doesn't really care about what speed your event is going at.
It can be immediate or main phase or whatever. So yeah, cool entry. I like this more than Rarity. Sorry, Rarity.
There's just more like crazy stuff that could happen.
Yeah, it gives you more possibilities, and Rarity is plain and simple.
Yeah, Rarity is pretty straightforward. And Twilight is as powerful as however you've constructed your deck.
Alrighty. Well, speaking of, I believe our next card, the same thing could be said of her.
Kind of taken to an extreme.
Yeah, up to and including the fact that it's also Twilight. Yes, so our Twilight main. Her flip condition requires you to reveal your hand, and if no two cards in your hand have the same name, i.e., there's no duplicates in there. Reminder, of course, that name includes title and subtitle. Turn this card over, and then once she's boosted, at the start of your turn, you get to reveal the top card of your deck. You may, and if you do, -1 to play that card this turn.
Yep.
So, yes, bit of a puzzle indeed.
So this
one's like the ultimate build around.
Kind of. So this is one of the cards that remember on the Q&A at the end we got like insights from all of the people who tested the set, and GP said that non-chaos top deck manipulation, and this is one of the cards that supports it because this works really well with Meticulous. You can look at the card first, and then you can use your main to make it cheaper. And if you have multiple Meticulous triggers, or you have like Meticulous 2 or something like that, it becomes even better. So yeah.
Wait, hang on a second. So you can't like discount multiple cards, can you?
No.
Okay.
But you can rig the top card of your deck so you get a discount
Okay.
exactly what you want.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You could make a card cost 0.
Mm-hmm.
There's no restriction on that.
You totally could.
Yep.
And the thing about
yeah. Sorry, go on.
The thing about this main requiring you to have a singleton deck, I just want to point out that you don't necessarily have to have a singleton deck. You just have to build your deck in such a way that you would get a singleton hand reliably, or you could get rid of the cards in your hand if you have them the same name. For
Worth
instance,
pointing out, an empty
including-
hand is a singleton hand.
Yeah, empty hand is also a singleton hand.
A one-card hand is also a singleton hand, probably more important.
Yeah. But like if you like put 3 of the Twilights from the like previous spoiler into your deck, it's fine because you can play one of them before you reveal your hand. If you get multiples. And I think if you like your deck mostly consists of like 2-offs and some 1-offs, you'll get a singleton hand fairly reliably.
Well, for those interested, I did the math. It's over on Reddit. The chances of you drawing a singleton hand with every possible configuration of 3s, 2s, and 1s.
But there's infinite possible configurations.
No, only 192.
But you can have any amount of cards in your deck.
Oh, well, yeah, that. I only did 45 card decks. If you want to run more
does
than
not
that,
approve. Skeeter does
do
not
the
approve.
math yourself, Skinner.
But yeah.
Mhm.
Another thing to consider, like even if you go for a chance that you will get your singleton hand reliably, still better think if you don't get your singleton hand. Like, it'll be pretty bad if you couldn't flip your main at all for some reason, like until the mid game.
Absolutely. And like most of that, yeah, as you say, comes down to either having duplicates of sort of cheap, easy to play cards, so you don't get stuck with expensive high rec duplicates, or having perhaps a discard solution so that you can mold your hand into the right shape.
Infiltrating the hive.
That is a good possibility.
So yeah, really cool, mate. Want to see more meticulous stuff or things that trigger at the start of your turn.
Yep. Yeah, like this feels like I was kind of thinking to myself before the stream, the kind of main that to some extent might require you to build a deck that's a little bit distorted, as it were, because you're really thinking about the duplicities and trying to maximize your chances, but then gives you the return back of saying, oh, well, most of your cards are discounted, so
yeah,
that's nice.
And if you are playing like a toolbox style deck, those kinds of decks frequently run 1-ofs and 2-ofs. So this main might be more suited for that style of deck.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. There's a spell for that. It's like, oh, I need to get rid of this resource. Oh, there's a spell for that. I need a card for this exact specific situation. There's a spell for that.
Subtle clue in the name. Very good.
It also works really well with Selena Blue. You could put something on top of your deck before the start of your turn.
It's almost like getting a free brainstorm every turn is good.
The only thing I like have problem with this main is that this main is a restricted, basically gain 1 AT per turn. The restriction being it has to be on top of your deck and you have to play it. But other than that, it's somewhat similar to the Ambassador of Friendship.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way.
And your opponent will see this card coming.
Yeah.
So if you want that discount, you gotta play fair.
Fair to point out, yeah.
Also doesn't work on your opponent's turn, which is actually a pretty big thing if you want to play a control deck with this.
Yeah. So actually, here's a question, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I just want to confirm. If I were to play the card that's discounted, and then it gets like my opponent plays unsatisfactory work and puts it back in my hand, I don't get the discount if I want to play it again, right?
Okay, so
You shouldn't. I don't think you should.
So there's a bigger problem here that was brought up. So the thing is, whenever a card changes zones, it becomes a different card, right?
Yeah.
Like when you portal a thing. So when you draw a card, it becomes a different card. So technically, this card doesn't work at all because the discount doesn't apply. Because when that card gets into your hand, it's not the same card anymore. And that's going
rest
to
assured that'll be a fix.
yeah, there will be a fix for this. This card will be rewarded a little bit, and so the rewarded version, I won't say it because it might change in the future again. Who knows? But basically, you will not get the discount after it bounces back. It will be like until you play it.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if I to go to the extreme scenario, if I play the card and then school shut down myself and then shuffle it back into my deck and then draw it again, I obviously shouldn't have the discount again. So
Yeah, I think like having a permanent or like semi-permanent discount on the card is pretty dangerous as far as combo is concerned. Because
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I would like to be one make one of my cards be permanently at least like within the turn cost 0 or something.
How would you like to immediately move one of your friends for free? Repeatedly.
Yeah.
can we say Pirate Dash again? No. So yeah, just I guess worth pointing out that there will be small modifications to this one going forward, but largely staying within the same basic idea.
Mm-hmm. The effect will be like pretty much the way it is intended with this card. Okay, next card.
Next card. The other tutor effect that we were hinting at earlier.
It's a farming card.
It is kind of a farming card. Speaking again of that question
Q&A,
and answer session, yeah, this is the card that at least tangentially benefits farm.
Yeah, it's the one that was implied with that answer.
So, starting problem, 5 to you, 7 to the other, and yes, when this problem becomes solved, you may search your deck for a card with no play requirement, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So, as noted out, troublemakers, friends with no requirement, resources with no requirement, events with no requirement.
Yeah, this is like a problem that literally every deck could play and find value in.
And I think this is a problem that pretty much every deck will play. That's how I feel about this problem.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that because I feel like it just makes problem deck construction 8 cards instead of 10.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
It's very, very versatile.
Yeah.
And everybody will probably want to play this card.
And given how good the entry cards are so far, if you run them as well, and if that's the only thing that you run, this problem is still really good.
As pointed out earlier, this can search up your stick as well. Sounds like a good deal.
Very much so. And control decks, troublemaker control decks can find troublemakers, of course, which is pretty good. Like, I would like to find my mimics on demand, pretty much.
I would like for you to not do that.
Too late. It's here on the screen.
Farming decks can find their epics. Sorry, go ahead.
For farming, this card is kind of like when this problem is solved, to draw a card.
Which is still fine. Which that is a fine effect to have on a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah. As I kind of I said this in Discord a little while ago. I personally want to try using this to search for Pearl and making for a more somewhat reliable transform deck.
Well, it's here. The 5 and 7 is pretty interesting. It's it kind of stops you from getting those sticks or troublemakers quickly.
It's a good point. Yeah, it's not going to go away super fast.
Unless the other problem is small and you are playing aggro and you go aggro, double confront, get a stick, you'd be putting yourself in a pretty good position.
Yeah, so what I want to say, like, this is the new core trading traditions, I think, pretty much. It's also like trading traditions, it has 5 on your side, but it doesn't have that annoying 4. It can find you entry. It doesn't do that immediately. So it's like it's nowhere as good as trading traditions, but it's still
Yeah.
really good because it gives you entry or stick if you already have entry. And the
I feel like it's
requirements are
good in
the
a
same.
very different way.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like if you try to replace your trading traditions with this, you're going to be in real trouble.
yeah.
Because all those
You still
all
have
those
to.
1/1s are like, well, yeah, nowhere near as good.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, we don't want second trading traditions, right?
Of course.
But it's a problem that gives entry, and I think it's pretty good at that because it's so versatile.
It's almost like if you see that your opponent is stuck on entry and they have this card, would you just DFO anyways?
Mm-hmm.
So it may cause a little bit of hesitation for the opponent. It's like, do I want to give him that free card if I were to confront it and cause a face-off on it?
Yeah, but do you want to slow down as an aggro deck just because of one card?
You want to slow down your own game to make sure they don't get something that they could potentially just draw in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
I feel.
In old core, the solution would be easy. Sure, I'll give you that card, and then I'll portal a Grubber in and take it away from you anyway.
Disgusting.
You can kind of still do that, but with Luna's Future.
Yeah. In the future on your Twilight and Rarity or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Or play the next card we're going to talk about, and then it's gonna work or something. Uh-huh.
Good point.
Oh
Good segue.
boy.
Let's go.
Next card?
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect segue to me.
Boom.
So, yes. Sonic Rainboom, cost 1, 4 blue rack, very intentional 4 blue rack. Immediate. Until the end of your turn, you may play events with main phase timing as immediate actions, even if it isn't your main phase. I don't know how necessary it is to say that, but yes.
So
basically, it is your it is your Philly second for events.
yeah, I wanted a card like that for a long time.
Well, here we go.
Yep, here it is. So
yeah.
There's like so much you can do with this. It's nuts.
Yeah, so like remember we were talking about how Twilight is like you can do so much with her? Like Twilight doesn't even come near this, I think. Because of just how many main phase events we have and how many things you can do with them, like their possibilities.
How would you like to play Portal again? You just need one more card to do it.
Yep.
We mentioned all the songs when we were talking about Twilight. That is still a thing.
Yeah, they're all the songs, and they are even better if you have Spike.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out. Spike Ultra Rare is still legal.
Yep.
Oh, I want that to happen so badly now.
So one important thing about this card is that First of all, as far as Harmony is concerned, you can't play face-off or reaction cards like this.
It says main phase timing.
Yeah, but it says specifically main phase.
Colon.
You also can't play immediate card like this.
True.
And it works on multiple events. So it just, unlike like Under the Wire, which gives haste only to one of your friends, you can play all of your main phase cards as much as you want until the end of the turn, which is pretty good.
I feel like blue purple just got a massive shot to the arm.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. 'Cause yeah, that 4 blue rec basically means you're gonna have to be playing blue. So blue purple is the most logical choice to go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some pretty good things.
There are already some pretty good blue purple decks running around. And this Sonic Rainbow may open up different options for blue purple decks, so it's not just the aggro style. I think blue purple deck we've been seeing a lot of recently, but maybe different one.
Maybe Detention will be a good card finally.
I'm a little more.
Let me try to remember what that card even does.
Puts a friend on
Like,
top of
wait,
the
what?
deck if you have a unicorn. If you have the amount of unicorns that is more or equal to the friend's cost, you can get AT back.
Yeah.
It's basically Napcake, unrestricted Napcakes for 2 cost,
Right.
but they're main phase. But
Right.
this is a solution to that.
Free, so it becomes a free card that hits 2 things if you have a lot of unicorns.
No, it hits 1 thing.
That's right. That's right. I was thinking about the copy again. Okay.
Yeah. But if you have a lot of unicorns, it becomes 2 instead of 3.
Right. So it becomes unrestricted Napcakes.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, but with 2 cards, it's a hard sell. To be fair, because you need 2 cards for this. Which is the main thing about this card. Like, as cool as it is to play events at immediate speed, you really have to think if that, like, paying 1 extra and paying 1 card from your hand for that. Will it be always worth it? And how much do you want to rely on that? Because you will not always have both Sonic Rainbow and the event you want to play at the same time.
Yeah. I feel like if you can get value out of like 2 events, then you're probably great. Otherwise, yeah, you'd like want to save this for like the super I win the game because I do this kind of situation.
School shutdown.
And that.
That's the real get out of jail card, you know. Abort, escape, button. Just get me out of here.
Scarface?
Yep.
Sonic
Do I
Rainboom in a
do
school
anything?
shutdown.
Yeah.
The flavor of that. Rainbow Dash explodes the school.
Yeah, because first the Sonic Rainbow happens and then the school is getting shut down. Oh my god.
I'm just trying to think a bit of the implications of this card existing as it pertains to Harmony. Now, normally blue doesn't really play a lot of main phase timing events as far as I can recall. Someone please tell me if I'm wrong here. But it's like not a lot.
So there's like Changeling can change.
Yeah, there's a couple of songs like Wonderable Trap and things like that you might want to play, but
yeah.
But it's like you pair this with any main phase event, not necessarily in blue, but there's a lot of stuff that could be looked at here.
Well, speaking of Harmony, We've already had much discussion in Discord about the return of Pile, given that this can turn Surprise Party into an immediate speed event.
Yeah, and you know what? The previous problem looks for Pile too.
Very true.
Yeah, so the Surprise Party, I think the event is called.
Yes.
I wouldn't blame anyone if someone forgot what it does, but basically it shuffles both players' hands and draws them 6 cards. For 2 ET with free pink requirement, I think.
I think
It's
so.
a lot of
something like
cards
that.
to draw.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards to draw. And if you keep happening, like, after you draw those 6 cards and you have another one, you can play that too. Sounds pretty good for Pile.
Yep. For those of you who perhaps weren't around in those bad old days, Pile of Presence is the card that, let me see, if your opponent's drawn, what is it, 4 cards or 3 cards, and you get
The
to
fourth
start?
card after the fourth card.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the old deck was built around forcing your opponent to draw cards and scoring with them, essentially, which was done in the olden days with DJ Every Pony Shufflin', Camelot Knights UR.
The irony of Pile of Presence being the thing it was supposed to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with Pile is that no one stops you from running Every Pony Shuffling as well, you just run everything you can. There's just more ways to give your opponent to draw cards.
Yeah. Because the way it used to work was that you would create copies of Every Pony Shuffling. Either back then it was using Chrysalis, the Xerox version, and then and then dip in the pool as well, which created a token copy of her.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to run Pile, you might not necessarily have to run all those copy effects.
Yep.
When you can just play Sonic Rain Boom, and then all of a sudden I'm drawing cards. All of a sudden cards are being drawn on your turn, whether you like it or not. To my benefit.
There's another way to use Pile with this without using Every Pony Shuffling and Surprise Party. So remember that Ace card, which doesn't say May on drawing a card?
Yes.
Remember that event that exchanges controls, Old Switcheroo? Well, that was main phase. So what you do is you give opponent Ace on their main phase, and then force them to move until they draw the entire deck, and you score as many points as you want to.
Right. Using one of the infinite move combos that exists,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just find the most efficient one that works for you.
So I suppose the jury is out on whether this turns Harmony into a cornucopia of possibilities or an even worse swamp.
Or combo wasteland.
I like
well,
the last
winter
one.
is coming up, so
We'll see. In any event, in core, it should be interesting.
You're saying that like in Harmony it's not interesting.
It'll be, I mean, okay, interesting for sure. There are a hierarchy of definition.
interesting in the same interesting one would use when describing a train wreck.
Yeah. Like, interesting for people who are standing on the sidelines and chronicling it. Perhaps not so good for the people who are involved.
What's the first likely Harmony event after the set releases? Would it be Vancouver? I hope it's not Vancouver.
Seems probable. Like, there's
Oh,
usually
boy.
nothing in December, so
Come to Derpfest. We will probably run Harmony, and if the set is released by then, Then it'll be the new Harmony.
Come to Vancouver, we only run Harmony. Either way, it's like this is gonna affect a lot of decks are gonna change because this exists. I feel there's gonna be a lot of new things, potentially a lot of broken things. It's really hard to test and cover like every interaction of this card with other card. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there is some confidence that it's not going to destroy everything because it's being released. So,
Or maybe some of the devs want to watch the world burn.
Yeah. I mean, we got all money, right?
these things are true. Alrighty, well, that brings us to the end of every spoiler that's happened up to now. We were given one more for you fine people. Just as a note, this art is somewhat unsettling to some folks. So if you're
It's
the
too
kind of
early
person,
in the morning for this.
you're the kind of person who isn't comfortable with insects and that kind of thing, consider perhaps bracing yourself. But otherwise, I think hit rock, show
Yeah.
it to the people.
As you say, cursed chords. A resource removal. Very expensive at that. But there's also a friend
I
removal
like how
in
you
yellow.
entirely just skipped friend.
Well, because that's not what yellow does it?
I think that makes it more notable. And that when do you ever get to dismiss a friend in yellow? You can do it now. Except you have to look at this card to do it.
It's true. The one card you might you might sleeve backwards.
So that's the real drawback.
No, it's not the part where you like give your opponent a bunch of critters. It's you have to look at this card.
On contrary, when you play it, opponent has to look at it.
You just turn it their way.
That's true. So yeah, friend dismissal in yellow, and more resource dismissal as well, with the drawback that, as we say, the opponent gets critter tokens up to the cost of the card.
Equal to the cost.
Right, equal, correct.
Yeah.
So that's likely to be probably somewhere between 2 and 4 critters for most stuff. And they get to distribute them around however they like. Yeah. Seems like a pretty significant drawback to me.
So the thing with that, like, if you're playing aggro and you remove something that way, then you can just do a double face off, and do those critters really matter at that point?
Well, there'll still be power involved in the face off, in theory.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot of the more recent cards involving dismissal or affecting some friends. They've been saying, dismiss an opposing friend, dismiss an opposing resource. It's really key that you can blow your own stuff up.
This is actually a very good point.
Do you run that many expensive cards though that you want to blow up yourself?
No, but you could.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You could. If you are playing blue-yellow, you could Sonic Rainboom this.
Into?
Well,
or something.
yeah.
I'm just
into-
saying it's a possibility.
Yeah, so the
You-
problem with
yeah.
something that this card costs free. Free is not like it's not cheap. Like I wouldn't want to get
Definitely
free
not cheap.
critters. I wouldn't want to get free critters for free cost, let's say, and remove my friend or a resource. So like I'm not really sold on the value of removing your own things. Unless it's Middlebrooks Mask and you have to win that face off.
Thanks. This card can't do that. What it's
Or the one like super corner case I just thought of was if you were attempting to play the Queen Novo deck where you lose face-offs but you accidentally start winning face-offs.
Yeah, okay, that's a thing to consider. I mean, people were trying to
It's
make
highly
Novo
unlikely I'll ever see that happen, in my opinion. But stranger things happen in this game.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think this is more dismissing a friend, not because it's like particularly like strong power wise or something like that. It's more like you really want to get rid of an effect that like you would trade Daybreaker for 3 crit.
If it's an opposing Deadbreaker, then yes.
Yes.
Or like Pirate Dash. Or Mullet. Like the orange blue mullet.
Yeah.
Like yeah, there are a lot of low cost friends that I would trade for free critters any time of the day. Like Selena Blue is a good card as well.
Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of certain Magic cards also kind of do the same thing where you can destroy something, but then they get like an elephant. So there's that kind of like trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's like, oh man, I get to do this effect in a color that I don't normally get to do this effect in. But usually in that case, there's some kind of drawback.
Even on high cost friends, like when you think about what high cost friends players play, it's usually like tricorns. I would rather my opponent has 6 critters rather than the tricorn. Like I'm paying free to get rid of Luna Midnight any time of the day.
And then it's, pretty. They probably won't get to keep all their critters for that long anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you play this on, you play one of the Redeem friends, you can come out AT positive. Get yourself 8 critters.
Yo,
or whatever.
I would play this with Twilight and blow my own stuff up.
Sorry, which Twilight? Oh, the Tricorn Twilight. Yeah. That's actually serious. Yeah, replace them with 3 power critter friend tokens, and now we're in business.
Yeah, so another thing is if they replace, like with Brian or something, they still get to put critters. So just don't play this card if they have Brian, I guess.
Huh.
Kind of weird, like yellow on yellow action.
Yeah, could be
Like,
interesting.
Trying to think of.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just trying to think of if there are any resources, just like friends that you kind of play early, or something, and then they just sit around afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
we're
what
getting
kind of use you would kind of get out of those?
we're getting
this.
told that it might have a different ruling with replacements, but as far as I can read it, the replacements should totally work.
I don't know, man. That sounds kind of sus.
Like it says dismiss a friend, it doesn't really care what happens to that friend. I don't know.
Okay. Potentially, we've opened up another gray area.
Can of worms, if you will.
Okay, so GP says that it's that card part. Well, the thing is, It is still that card, even if the effect is replaced. It's even more so that card because it still remains in the same zone. But either way, this will be figured out.
Yeah. In any event, there will be discussions happening, and this is why we appreciate having you, Vitrock, because this is like your specialty, it seems.
I like rules, but I wouldn't call this my specialty.
It's not a job; it's a hobby.
But yeah,
Other than that, I think the card is like really well put together in terms of everything on the card. Really, the art, flavor text, name, fact, everything all goes together into one not nice to look at package. I will focus on the right side of the card where that would be my face every time it gets played.
yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a rule like Magic that like as long as you see the name of the card, it works as a card. So you can't like cover up the art. Or maybe you can. It's really up to the tournament organizer.
We just need there to be a promo version of this card with better art. That's it.
With just Fluttershy in
Better.
it without Starlight.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Better is subjective. What if it was more insect?
I'm sure that if there was a promo version of the card, it would be more Nightmare Fuel. I'm 100% sure of that.
It does. It is called Creepy Crawlies. It doesn't. It's not called Fluttershy or Starlight. So that's the point of the card to have insects on it because it's like the card's focus.
What is up with her eyebrow?
I think it's
Just took a
another
closer look.
insect.
What is it?
Hmm.
I don't remember this. I've stared at this card for too long. Oh god. Get
Yeah,
the
that's a good point.
I can't
Wow.
because we don't have the last slide.
This is the last slide.
But yeah, I think it's a very versatile card. There's a lot of cards. Yes, I've been saying that a lot. There's a lot of versatile cards in this, but this is can be played more than one.
Yeah, like so far, that's actually something that I've noticed out of all the cards we've had revealed so far, that there have been a lot that require you to either make a decision when you come into play or like, yeah, can be played in a multitude of different ways, and so it should, in theory, allow for more sort of dynamic play in addition to the dynamic deck building that we have with these mains. Which, sum total, is good, as far as I'm concerned. More decisions to make.
Mm-hmm.
More things for colors to do, in a sense.
All right. So, that does bring us to the end of our stream today. Per usual, this card's going to be going to Reddit in Hithrock's album, and one of us is probably going to dump it on Discord after we're done. Otherwise, if you would like to see our content again or watch past episodes or recommend to a friend, we are on YouTube, and the stream will be heading over there in a couple of hours probably. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I've been Cursor Chords.
And I've been Hithrock.
9 pages.
And we'll see you in a fortnight.
Bye.
Peace.